Hello, I'm Don Dawson. Today we're going to talk about... Whoa!
Hey, Bernie, I thought I told you to tape that power cable down. Are you all right, Don?
Yeah, I'm okay.
You can just pick it up where you left off.
Okay. Today we're going to talk about avoiding slips, trips, and falls. Well, that was a little embarrassing, but the fact is that these types of embarrassing situations can be more serious than people think. According to OSHA, slips, trips, and falls constitute the majority of general industry accidents, and falls result in 15% of all accidental deaths, second only to motor vehicle fatalities. It's important to realize that it doesn't take falling from a high place to injure you. Simply slipping on a wet floor or tripping over a small object can result in a fall that lands you in the hospital with a broken bone, strained back, or concussion. To avoid these types of accidents, you need to understand how your body maintains its balance as your center of gravity changes. Center of gravity is defined as the point at which the entire weight of an object can be balanced. Imagine that you are standing straight up. Now draw a triangle with your feet forming the 2 points at the base and the third point of the triangle at your lower back. This upper point is roughly where your center of gravity is. These 3 points constantly change position as you move. If the upper point extends out past the lower points, you will lose your balance, and unless you regain it, you will fall. As with any object, the shape and size of your body will have a direct impact on how naturally stable you are. A short person will have a lower center of gravity and be more stable than a tall person. It simply takes less of a push to cause the taller person to extend their center of gravity out past their feet and fall over. Weight is also a contributing factor. A person who is barrel-chested will have a higher center of gravity and be more top-heavy than someone who is thinner. How you stand also affects your stability. You are in your most stable standing position when you are perfectly upright with your arms at your sides. This keeps your center of gravity low, around the lower part of your spine and over your feet. If you hunch over or slouch, your center of gravity can extend out past your feet, making you less stable. Reaching for something can also cause you to lose your balance. When you reach over your head, your center of gravity rises dramatically and you become extremely unstable. So you should get a stepladder if you need to get something up high. But be careful on ladders, they become an extension of your body. The higher you are on a ladder, the higher your center of gravity becomes and the less stable you will be. So it's always a good idea to have someone steady the ladder to make sure that you don't lose your balance. Carrying something can make you unstable as well, especially if you position it incorrectly. For instance, putting a load on your shoulder not only raises your center of gravity, it throws it dangerously off to the side. To maintain your stability, you should carry objects at waist level and close to your body. This keeps your center of gravity low and balanced over your feet. Maintaining your balance is especially important when you walk, since this is when you are most likely to trip or slip. Most people take walking for granted, but it requires split-second timing and a lot of dexterity. When walking, you lean forward, extending your center of gravity out past your feet. Taking a step to keep up with your center of gravity prevents you from falling. As you walk, you plant one foot as you move the other. Since a single foot does not provide much of a base of support, it does not take much to cause you to slip or trip. Trips usually occur when you stumble on uneven walking surfaces or objects that are in your path. Slips are caused by a lack of friction between the soles of your shoes and the surface that you are walking on. Slips generally happen when you're on surfaces that are smooth, slick, or wet. But there are other factors that can contribute to you slipping as well, including the slope of the surface, wearing shoes that don't provide adequate traction, and the momentum that you build up while walking. Momentum is the force behind your movement. It is generated by your weight and the speed at which you walk. When you walk, you build up more momentum than someone who walks slower or weighs less than you do. Likewise, when you carry a heavy object, you create more momentum than when you are not carrying anything at all. The more momentum that you produce, the more friction you need between the soles of your shoes and the walking surface to keep you from slipping, and the more difficult it is for you to regain your footing and stop yourself from falling. Different walking surfaces provide varying degrees of friction. For instance, carpeting has a lot more friction than a smooth tile floor, and a dry tile floor provides more friction than one that is wet. You could avoid slipping by being aware of the type of surface that you are walking on and knowing how much traction it provides. Let's look at some of the walking surfaces that you may encounter. They can be divided into 3 types: non-slip, moderately slippery, and slippery. Non-slip surfaces provide traction regardless of whether they are wet or dry. They include carpet, rough textured concrete, rubber mats, textured steel plate, and surfaces covered with abrasive paint or non-slip coatings. Moderately slippery surfaces are reasonably slip resistant when they are dry, but can be very slippery when they are wet. These include unpolished ceramic tile, vinyl, smooth concrete, and unfinished wood. Slippery surfaces don't provide much traction, wet or dry. They include polished marble and tile, smooth metal, freshly painted concrete, varnished wood, and of course, ice. The most slippery places inside of buildings tend to be near entrances, restrooms, and areas around machinery. Often the floors in these locations are made of moderately slippery materials, such as vinyl, tile, or concrete, which can become skating rinks when they get wet. If possible, these areas should be covered with non-slip materials, such as rubber mats or carpeting. Outside of your building, you need to be careful when walking on sidewalks and pavements that may be wet or icy. In addition to water, there are other slippery things that you need to keep an eye out for, such as dirt, sand, sawdust, metal shavings, packaging materials, loose gravel, grease, and street grime. You also need to be careful when you are walking on ramps or other sloping surfaces, since the likelihood of slipping increases when a surface is not level.